This is David with Insuring Your Insurance. Needing insurance is a bit like needing a parachute. If it doesn't work the first time you use it, you probably won't be needing it again. But you may say, my family's business has been adequately insured since my 9 times great-grandparents started it. They brought their insurance over with them on the Mayflower, and even made sure to secure winter famine coverage with their Plymouth agent shortly after making landfall. Cool story. But if historical claims arise against your organization, chronicled annals of insurance documented by no more than oral tradition, that's probably not going to trigger coverage. Now, while you probably don't actually need to archive vellum parchment policies dating back to the Colonial period, it is really important to keep records of all the policies that have been in effect during the course of your organization's history. But why, you might ask? And that's a good question. I asked myself the same thing while vlogifying the Telios vlogs. But to make it simple, there are a lot of bespoke insurance policies, and businesses are constantly upgrading and changing policy providers in an effort to get the most out of their policy. Think of it like a hyper-aggressive shell game that's played to the death. Or at least for keeps. What this means is that if there is a claim based on past events, the question may arise, which of any past policies is triggered? The good news is that your provider is going to give you a copy of your policy. This will set the terms, conditions, and scope of each category of loss, as well as any exclusions. And we've talked about exclusions at length already. You'll also receive a declarations sheet that specifically spells out the limits of the policy. That declaration sheet will have a coverage period. Between those two documents, you should have everything you need, and just make sure you keep those on file, and you probably want to back them up. The reason to keep those documents is that occurrence policies only cover insurance claims that occurred during that coverage period. Wait. What in tarnation is a occurrence policy, you might ask? And that's a good question because I probably should have led with what that is. I didn't want to throw the entire dictionary at you all at once, so here we are. An occurrence policy is one of 2 possible kinds of policies. What makes these distinctive is that they only cover insurance claims that happen during their coverage period. And almost all commercial general liability policies are occurrence policies. Well, what about the other kind? You're probably not going to have it unless you have some kind of professional liability policy, such as an errors and omissions policy. And these policies can be what is called a claims-made policy. Unsurprisingly, a claims-made policy triggers on a claims-made basis. They're not sensitive to when the claim actually took place. But the reality is, even if you do have some claims-made policies, you will almost certainly also have occurrence policies. And that is especially true if you've been in business for any extended period of time. So because of that, you're probably going to have to keep track of your coverage periods for your various policies. But David, that wasn't funny at all. Hey, first of all, that's not true. I lifted some truly genius humor from the original Telios Law blog. Seriously. Props to the guy who wrote that. And I have a bunch of important terminology I needed to introduce, and I only had so much time to do it in. I'll get back to the funny times in the next vlog, but before I go, I want to emphasize this. Bringing everything together. Most insurance you're going to be buying is going to be occurrence insurance. That means that it's only going to cover claims when what is being claimed actually occurred during the coverage period. So that means that your safe bet is going to be to keep track of your coverage periods, make sure there are no gaps, and carefully document insurance in case there are historical claims. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Stupid Things People Do and What We Can Learn from Them, Insuring Your Insurance edition, and I'll see you next week for the Indiana Jones edition of Insuring Your Insurance, where we'll discuss statutes of limitation and insurance archaeology.